Thank you.
What was law enforcement like back then? People often rely on law enforcement to keep their community safe, but what was it like? What was it like back then? I've been in the police science program for 2 years now. I've taken multiple courses or classes that have talked about this topic and have read multiple textbooks about it, so I feel like I can tell you what I know about this topic. Evolution of law enforcement has made a better environment for people all over the world. So now I'll talk about the different eras or models of policing and how it has changed for the better. So let's start with the first era of policing. The first era is called the political era. This is from the 1830s to the early 1940s. The author of Police Operations, Thomas F. Adams, he was a former lieutenant. He's also a police academy instructor, and he is a criminal justice professor. He wrote in his textbook that promotions were based on the people you know rather than your skills. So if you're super good at your job, knew what you were doing and doing well, you would not get promoted unless you knew somebody like a political figure like the mayor or someone more higher up. Officers during this time were very undisciplined. They just did whatever they thought they could do. So like they didn't really have like a chief or anything yet. A quote from Adams' book on page 3 is Wickersham Committee report in 1931 reported infliction of physical and mental pain to get statements and confessions was not uncommon. So they physically abused their suspects or mentally abused them. They yelled at them, kicked them, spit at them to get confession statements, and that often led to false confessions. There was a lot of corruption between the political figures and the police during this era. The political figures wanted police to fulfill their own personal agendas, so they didn't care about the community. So now that I talked about the political era, let's move into the next era. The next era is the Reform era. This was from the 1930s to the 1980s. This was called the Reform era because they were really trying to fix the corruption brought on by the political era. The father of American policing, August Vollmer, introduced radios and squad cars, fingerprinting analysis and handwriting analysis, juvenile programs, and college programs. So he's really trying to build up the education for this job. And now during this era, you had to be trained and tested to be hired. So you would be tested emotionally, psychologically to see if you're fit for the job or not. And previously in the political era, you didn't have to be tested or anything. A quote from Penn State's Policing Era's article reads, Chief August Vollmer saw police as social workers with a badge who need to delve into causes behind crimes in order to solve the root issue. So Chief Vollmer really wanted police to be more engaged in the community and what was causing them to commit these crimes. But during this era, the police didn't have as much contact with the public as Vollmer would have liked. He would have wanted them to be more involved with the community. So now that I've covered 2 eras, I'll now talk about the last era, which is the one they were in today. The current era we're in is called the community era. That started in the 1980s. It really tried to focus on connecting with the community and have them more involved because they wanted to show the community that they were there from them, they're on their side. So I'll show a quick video of an example that we use today.
Coffee with a Cop is a national initiative supported by the U.S. Department of Justice and the Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services.
People realize we're here for the community. We have officers driving all day in squad cars, and they don't really, interact unless there's a report they're taking, or it's a traffic accident, or to get stopped for speeding. So it's just a way to break down barriers and just, hey, the police are here for the community. We need your support, and we're part of the community, and we're listening to, concerns and things like that.
So this is a very widespread thing that cops do, is they sit down with your community and have coffee and just talk about what they could do better, what they think they need to do themselves to better their community for everyone. They introduced problem-oriented policing, which they were more focused on the underlying causes of crime and problems in the community. So they weren't just slapping handcuffs on everybody and arresting them. They really looked into beyond why they were doing this. Also, the broken window policing is where they didn't tolerate the minor crimes in order to deter the bigger offenses. So if a suspect saw the police really cracking down on the minor offenses like traffic, theft, fifth, something like that, the bigger criminals would be more scared to commit their crimes because they think they would be caught. They really focus on research to better policing. So they look at a lot of case law and everything to see what they could do better, stuff like that. So this is the current era, and I believe that this will be used for a long time. So in review, I talked about the 3 different eras: the political era, the reform era, and the community era. The evolution of law enforcement has made a better environment for people all over the world. So after reviewing all 3 policing eras and what their priorities were, we said that it's come a long way, but it also has a lot of work to do. I hope that my speech has informed you all about the policing eras and how it is still evolving. Thank you for listening to my speech.